Here's a question from a MyEconLab quiz that a lot of students seem to struggle with. And so I want to walk through it now in hopes that it becomes clearer the types of questions that you might see when it comes to an exam or a future quiz. The first thing I want to point out here is, what is this question actually asking? I think that's a difficult part for some students because it looks like there's a lot of information here. In fact, a lot of this information isn't even needed. So let's start with the actual question. I'm going to try and highlight what the question's asking. So if the multiplier had a value of 4, so that's something that's given, it's not the question, how large must the change in autonomous expenditure have been? Like, that's the real question that it's asking here. The question that we're asking is, we have autonomous spending, what is that change going to have been? So that's important. To cause a decline in real GDP as shown in the table. Okay, so I can highlight that part. The decline in real GDP as shown in the table, well, that's going to be real GDP here, so we must have to look at this stuff. So, okay, so let's try and figure out what's given. This is what we want, right? This is what we need. And let's say what's given. Well, the first thing we know that's given is the multiplier is equal to 4. And we know that it has to have this change in real GDP, or my change in Y, which is going to be 778 minus 1056, or 1056, right? These are both billions of dollars. We're just going to use those regular numbers. And if I do this out, I see this is negative 278. So we have negative $278 billion is what the change in GDP was, going from 1929 to 1933. So this is during the Great Depression era. We have all this stuff. Well, what equation are we going to need to use? What exactly do we need here? And that's the important part about trying to figure out, trying to analyze these types of questions. Well, you have to go through your Rolodex of knowledge and think, well, what is this really talking about? And since it has the multiplier given to you, the first thing that should pop in your head is, well, what about this multiplier effect? We know the multiplier effect says that the change in GDP is always going to equal whatever that change in autonomous spending is multiplied by that multiplier. The great thing is this is what we have. We have enough here. We have this change in Y and we have the multiplier. So I know that negative 278 is going to equal my change in autonomous spending, which is what I'm looking for, times 4. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Those will cancel out. And so I can get my answer. My change in autonomous spending is equal to, when I plug in negative 278 over 4, I'm going to get that answer that's shown, which is negative $69.5 billion. That's how we get this part right here of our second question. So that is here. The second part of this question is just saying, well, what happens if the multiplier was 2? So notice that when the multiplier is bigger, we don't need, so the multiplier is 4, we don't need as big of a change to see this big change in GDP. I'm not going to go through and do the same thing with the multiplier of 2. All you got to do is all you've got to do is change this to 2 down here. And I know that you can do that on your own. And you should do that to get some practice.